Greetings to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here. The sixth part in this series of 11 parts called Deadman Walking, Freedom Never Dies. 11 life lessons in the learning, in facing death, mortality. Perhaps there's some relevance in this for you. Hope you are well wherever you may be. My heart to yours. Thank you for tuning in, either live and or watching it as a recording here on Facebook or YouTube or Lisbon, Apple, Google, many of the podcasting sites that we migrate this live talk to throughout the world. From my heart to yours. Today is Pursuing the Deathless, a very compelling topic for me. It's something that I cannot not share. It's the raison d'etre of my life, the central heart purpose of existence, the central tenet for me of Dhamma or Dharma, spirituality, the Nibbana, the concept of the absolute absence of greed, anger, and delusion. Needless to say, I'm sharing something that is a theoretical, but a very deeply felt personal process in development. The central tenet of classical Buddhism, the third noble truth, the truth of freedom from fear. Just love the sound of that. Freedom from aggression, just love it. Freedom from violence, you got to go there. Freedom from delusion, bring it on. That there are men and women throughout time immemorial that have thought, felt, and dove into the artistry, if you will, of Nibbana, the pursuit of the deathless. It's a radiant pursuit. So from my heart to all the women and the men throughout time immemorial, thank you, thank you, thank you for your courage, your diligence, your intelligence, your radical beauty to pursue this timeless reality that can be felt. I know it from my own experience. You can feel it in gradations. You can feel it and see it in degrees of luminosity. So thank you for hanging with me today. And let's move into an experiential pursuit of the deathless in this journey of facing mortality and death face on, heart on, with mindful courage as the most important quality that we can bring to time and space and mind and body and self and other. Where to go, where to start? You know, many of us, maybe you are included, were deeply moved by the teachings of the Buddha, specifically the Four Noble Truths. I know when I first encountered them with just a handful of friends in my late teens, they truly awakened something in me that one could only say was a parami seed of Dhamma or Dharma. It activated the yogi in me. I know you can relate. It activated the validation of the adventure of discovering the properties, the formations, the frequencies of consciousness and context, and engaging those formations, those frequencies with purpose and meaning and transformational finesse to elevate gradations of Nibbana, the deathless. And the first noble truth of the four really struck a chord more than ever now, but of course, way back then. Someone, a Buddha was said to have said that when you really look, feel, and know the nature of the context that your life is embedded in, it's unoptional to see the suffering inherent in being in that context. And one is always quick to point out it's not the only thing, but it could be so pervasive that it is everything. And even when we think of rapture and joy from the context of the formation of where dukkha or suffering comes from, that it's built upon change, impermanence, selflessness, the emptiness of centrality, conditions that cannot be controlled. Therefore, you cannot tell yourself to not experience that anger, not experience that bad memory, not experience that chance encounter with a rapist, a murderer, a thief, a villain. That oppression of context out of our control, therefore anatta, emptiness of self, emptiness of control, emptiness of centrality. And you go into this field of, wow, the first noble truth. Someone spoke to this context, the obvious forms of suffering, loss, pain, violence. Say no more about murder, hardship, robbery, the epic forms from ethnic cleansing to genocide, to just simply being born and deformed and struggling with various mental and emotional, psychological, contextual, political struggles and complexities, an extinction, an asteroid, dinosaurs, a centipede, a life just being run over by a car, eaten by a shark. There's so many variations on the theme of dukkha, the first noble truth. And of course, far more than physical suffering is mental suffering. My God. Mental, if we were just to pause for a minute here and just reflect on a feeling empathic level, the complexity of the tears and the anguish, it's not a downer. It takes courage to face this stuff. We're facing it in our own lives. I have friends right now that are suffering in such bad states. They're seeking salvation from the suffering, and it's not easy. You, all of us, we can hear the cry, the moan, the weep. Mental, emotional, psychological, and you got existential suffering, that deep anxiety that it's just not right the way it is. You got to make peace with the way it isn't, and you just got to keep living in this kind of almost able, skill, not skill, maneuvering to outmaneuver the suffering. And yet all of a sudden from behind you, in front of you, through you, in you, around you, it just takes you. Heart attack, stroke, blood clots, aberrant presidents, sociopathic medical tyrannists, dictators, aberrant gods, Satan, evil, guns, drones, dynamite, nuclear submarines and weapons, protests and pepper spray, the horrors of all the things that we see and feel and know, and mentally. Just think right now, all those boys and girls around the world that are struggling mentally and emotionally, that's a form of dukkha, the first noble truth of the Buddha's teaching. If you're really honest and you really feel the context of being inside and outside, it cannot be controlled on the terms of your desire. You do not create your own destiny. You attempt to, but you got to really deal with the cards that are being dealt to you incessantly. One rape is one too many for me to think this is a garden. I don't know about you. One genocide, two genocides. Let's bring on another Holocaust. I don't want to study Holocaust. I want to rid the fabric of Holocaustal energy, right? The first noble truth. Get real, man. Drop down into the nature of the nature. And that blew my mind to feel into the first noble truth as a young man, and then pursuing that on an experiential level. The pursuit of the deathless was really synonymous to me with what the Buddha talked about. You know, he used the simile of the arrow, a person being shot. And there they are having an adverse effect to the arrow being shot, pointed right at their chest. And there he is, metaphorically, you know, listen, let's remove this arrow. Let's remove the arrow of suffering. Let's remove the arrow of death. And the man or the woman says, no, I'm curious about where the first arrow was shot in the history of arrow shooting. I want to know where the wood came from, and why did they shoot me and not you? And where did the feathers come from? And what kind of bow did they use? Was it Nike? Or did they get it on Amazon Prime? What was the story behind the arrow? And why in the hell, again, did they shoot me and not shoot that deer over there? Were they shooting at me because they didn't like me? Is it a past life regression? What's going on? And all of a sudden, needless to say in this story, according to the Buddhist teaching, the man dies of speculation and doesn't address the point. There is suffering inherent in life. It will take you. You will have disease. You'll have old age if you live that long. You'll have a rock drop on your foot, or you'll have an ocean engulf you like a tsunami. But death will take you. And I offer you, man, the deathless. And so the Buddha was said to have said in this particular simile, there's only one thing that I teach and one thing that I share, which is really rad, that there is suffering, dukkha, different dimensions of this dukkha, and there is the release from dukkha. That is what really grabbed me. That was the existential grab for me. Yes, I could see it. I could feel it. Most people were pretending that it really didn't exist. But when we felt into it on a more intimate level, right? It was like, something's not right at this party. It just doesn't grab my interest. Yes, I like Jimi Hendrix. Yes, I like fairly large doses of LSD. Yes, I like intimacy and sexuality and eroticism. Yes, yes, yes. I like to travel and dance and do all the things that I do. I like to read books. However, when I extend beyond my own gratification formation, and a little bit of my reflective capacities to see beyond my own narcissism, there's a sea of tears. And all of a sudden, traveling through India, and you look at this deformed person, and you go, oh my God, that could be me, right? Remember those reflections that we've had, called just simply the transference of self into other, empathy, basic human empathy? And you go, oh my God, oh my God. And all of a sudden, you become more and more contracted, because you cannot protect yourself from the arrow of life. You just can't live with it either. But there are those who are driven by the existential pursuit of the deathless. That's this point, lesson number 8. The deathless. It was so important for me to hear these teachings and to feel them ever more. I mean, yes, I've got an aortic aneurysm that's supposed to burst at any given moment. You've got your own biological problems and struggles. The whole planet will dissolve soon. Mother, sun will engulf us no matter what. What? It's so over the top and in our heart that you go, life is an existential adventure pursuit training. Existential intelligence that addresses the concentric elements of suffering, for me, which is really tantamount to this simile of the arrow. How am I deluded? I get the point, but not really. But questions that don't tend to edification, some papalapa wasa-like dialogues that just basically become circular, and you've kind of heard the same old thing yet again, 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 looping forward and backward, looping forward and backward. It's a Ferris wheel of predictable patterns of nowhere. And Dhamma comes in and goes like, I want to interrupt this cycle. That cycle is known as samsara. And it was like, oh my God, that is super rad, man. And the Buddha was said to have entered this psychic, sonic, physical dimensionality called the Five Aggregates. What is a self if there is no one that dies? There is suffering, but no one who suffers. Deeds are done, it was said, according to the Buddha, but no one who does them. There's enlightenment, but no one who's enlightened. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It points right to that central concept that really separated Indian ancient Vedantic philosophies, Atta-driven philosophies, self-oriented from small microscopic to large infinite styles of selfdom, the Atta doctrines, into the Anatta doctrine, the absence of centrality, the absence of soul essence. Really difficult to get our heads around because it plays right in close to our own biases, spiritually, philosophically, religiously. But if we learn and train our mind to not buy into dissonance, especially cognitive dissonance, and we become more intimately aware of that and thread it back, release it so that we can enter into more intimate inquiry without rejection and judgment based upon, previously unresolved complexities, struggles, stupidities, call them, traumas that never had a first beginning. There's so damn many of them. And you go, wow, okay, got it, anatta. Talk to me about anatta. And that is a very alluring concept for me. It's like, Alan, you're talking right now, but there's no one who's behind that talking. You're listening, but there's no one there ultimately who's behind the ear, the eye, the nose, the tongue, the body, the mind. You are not your thoughts. Thoughts exist, but there is no one who thinks them. Holy heaven. It's like, wow, what an incredible, egotistical, biologically driven, crazy phantasm of organic flesh encased consciousness that bleeds, oozes, moves, walks, quacks, talks, poos, pees, eats, mostly does dumb shit stuff called being dumb. It's dumb to hurt people. It's dumb to kill people. It's dumb to rape people. It's just dumb to pollute the planet. It's just dumb. And we got to really, this teaching here is how to confront dumbness. Like the arrow was shot, I'm the dummy down there. Hey dude, I don't want to live right now. I want to continue to suffer and understand why I have this pain. I want to go back down inside, and how deep did the arrow go before you take it out? I want to measure it. I want to really see if this was really systemic trauma or just my own individual personality trauma. No. It goes deeper than any trauma. It's inbuilt into the tapestry, the first noble truth. So this lesson here for me, this pursuit of the deathless, is so interesting. Giorgio Bruno, I think the Italian philosopher back in something 1500s, 1600s, and the Buddha and Sir Isaac Newton, and a story that I learned in Vietnam. These four little short intersecting stories kind of take me to the next dimension of this opening into lesson number 8, In Pursuit of the Deathless. Giorgio Bruno looked through his telescope as a philosopher and a savant, an astrophysicist, and so, oh my God, the earth is not the center of the universe. And the concept of infinity arose in Italy. The church, the box-shaped Vatican, the upholder of dogma, of orthodoxy and genocide, called Giorgio Bruno treasonous to cosmological, Catholic, branded reality. And according to the church, it wasn't infinite. We are the center of the universe. We are the center of reality. And this type of earth-bound, I'm the body of the man who's shot on a collective level now. No, Mr. Bruno, it's not an infinite dynamic that Earth is a part of. And since it was so threatening to the Church of Four Walls, the Church of dogma, orthodoxy, paralysis of soul and creativity, and genocidal spirit, they told George, the only way you're going to survive is to recant. It's not infinite. It's not infinite. And Bruno, with his radical ethical courage, said no, despite being tortured, and eventually was hung upside down, stripped, his tongue cut out, and burned alive at the stake in Italy, because he discovered nature in its truth, without dimension here, there, or anywhere. And that flew in the face of the illusion holders of the church. Call it the church of anything, the church of certainty, the church of anti-mystery, the church of self, small, medium, and large, the church of whatever it is that dogma wants to inhabit and then violate, judge, persecute, rape, kill, try to manipulate, tyrannize anyone who does not believe in the orthodoxy of your lie. Giorgio Bruno, to me, was really an existential upsetter of the norms, and really spoke to early stage understanding of a man who preceded him by nearly 2,000 years, the Buddha, Gautama Buddha, who talked about infinity, which is essentially non-centrality. No outside that we can absolutely discern that's further out than our furthest out imagination. No end to the end. A beginningless, centerless, without direction of up, north, south, east, west, middle, or perimeter. Wow, we're in an endless simultaneity. And quantum physicists, according to the Buddhists as well at the time, talked about multidimensionality. So we're in this concentric, interrelated dimensionality of intersecting holograms without a center point, the anatta doctrine. And you go, wow, this stage is rad. There are phantasm puppet-like conditioned creatures that bleed, ooze, love, dance, sell, buy, own Ethereum, blockchains. Tragic that poor China just crucified the cryptocurrency industry in their country. Talk about totalitarianism. Talk about dictatorship. What a signal that is. Terrified by diversity, non-centrality. They're the killers of anatta. They're trying to. But Giorgio Bruno and the Buddha intersected here in infinity and non-centrality. Sir Isaac Newton, for example. Many of us remember, of course, the prism. I forget exactly, was it in 17 something or other? Sir Isaac Newton, the preeminent savant of the heart, the mind, of philosophies and science, brings his coterie of men and women in, gives them a moderately high dose of psilocybin, and they hang out and says, okay, now what is it, Mr. Sir Isaac Newton, that you've brought us into this room for? And he whips out a prism, opens up the curtain, and he begins to show to his friends, his audience, the spectrum of the rainbow inherent in white light. And where you're looking out at one thing, and all of a sudden, through the refraction of something else, you see something that's always there, but you can never see it. We see the world as we see it, but we don't really often understand that what we see is a relative perception that may not be complete in our understanding of it unless there is a medium that refracts more nuanced color or gradations or truths. This is where meditation becomes the prism to illuminate the facets of consciousness on the field of transparent light, not just white light. We begin to see, oh my God, the atmosphere in light does not have a center point. And that anatta doctrine, with Giorgio Bruno in An Infinity, the Buddha's non-centrality, Sir Isaac Newton showing spectrum of consciousness from deep sleep to REM, to light sleep, to dream states. You're not dead when we're sleeping, remember that. And then there's the waking dimensions of consciousness. And of course, those of us who low dose or medium dose, we know that dimensionality isn't stable, that it's actually a spectrum within spectrums. Other people think about, I'm intoxicated with alcohol or nicotine or green tea or whatever it may be that illuminates and heightens the radiance of your frequencies and your waves and your particles, and all of a sudden, because of the low dose magnified by your yogic mind prism, you're in company now with things that you normally can't see. You see deities, you see devas, you see brahmas, you see entities. You feel frequencies, you hear the sound of the song and you hear the lyrics, but you also feel the vibrational particles coming to your ear. There's a wave across the ocean of time. It is not one wave that crosses the ocean, but molecules connecting to molecules that push up the water and move across time with the momentum of the life force. But there is no one wave that crosses the ocean, no one auditory wave that crosses the spectrum of sound and oxygen, no one individual that crosses the sea of life. Birth, from moment that we have recognition to the next second, that consciousness is a spectrum of conditions without centrality, infinite in dimension, spectrums of possibility. This is a very important point for me. Spectrum isn't just a poetic to talk about differentiation, but there is an intelligence of how the wave called you and me moves across time and space. That's known as Dhamma, the Four Noble Truths to me, as a son of the Buddha. And the central tenet of this particular talk, which takes old age and death out of the equation of living, is anatta, the pursuit of Nibbana, the pursuit of the realization of non-centrality. The Buddha was said to have said, there is no one who suffers. But suffering is so real because there is consciousness of pain, but there isn't one who is conscious. There's awareness of consciousness, but awareness isn't self. And you go, wow, that's such a rad theory. I want to know it in my heart. You come right back to the original simile of the arrow in the chest, and you go, okay, man, let's pull it out. And you go, extract the wrong view from your mind. Aha, okay. Wrong view is just limited perception of spectrum, limited awareness of context. It took the telescope and an open-minded Giorgio Bruno, that's you and me, and we looked, and through reasoning power, oh my God, the universe is not only so much larger than I thought, its very dimension and its nature is radically different than I projected. Reality versus projection. And so the last point here in this particular part of the sharing is a story that I heard when I was in Vietnam, not during the war. I'm not a veteran of any war. But I went there to be in context because the film that I was hired to write was, in my conception, going to take place in Vietnam. And I went there. A story that I heard, true or untrue, fable or non-fable, that struck a chord in my own heart was how a Vietnamese soldier left his pregnant wife to take up the good fight. And the child was born in the absence of the father, and the mother had no way of knowing about her husband, and time went on, and the child grew up. And the mother, in good spirit, decided to read stories to her young son, and in the evening, the fire would project her own body against the wall, and she introduced that shadow image to her young son, who was too young to know it as a shadow, that indeed was your father who's sitting in listening to us. And it brought joy to the young boy. And this happened month after month, and apparently for some time, years. Eventually the war ended. It's a long war. And therein lies where we see this epic moment, as the story was told to me, of how wife and husband are being reunited after 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years of silence and absence. Quite a moment. And the boy runs up to meet his dad, but he's never met his dad before because he's never seen him in flesh. And it's said in this story that the boy looked up at his father with the mother there and said, "This is not my father." And the man, the father, looked at his wife and instantly projected through the spectrum of his own denial, his own fear, that his wife had been having an affair in his absence. And this is why the young boy did not recognize him as his father. And he went into deep traditional restraint and silence and didn't say anything. And the wife had no idea what had happened because the communication wasn't open. Wars are fought because of this. Genocides are committed in the name of a screaming silence of truth. The Giorgio Bruno's lost, the Buddha's lost, Sir Isaac Newton's spectrum of the prism is lost. Projection has become more important than principle awakening. And the wife, traditionally, in a non-confrontational way, thought that in fact her husband had ceased loving her. And she, in a short period of time, the story is told, committed suicide. Obviously, a castle of projections that led to a catastrophic outcome. Projections is my point here. And how easy it is to assume that our perception, projections on the canvas of life and other in our own mind is true. And not having the mindful capacity, the intelligence, emotional, psychological, and existential, and the camaraderie of a teacher, a guide, a psychotherapist, a psychonaut, to help us overcome the prejudice of our conditioning and tease out of the life stream the projections of speculation, of doubt, judgment, of shame, all the distortions that contort us into the dogma, the cathedral of our own denial. Yet in that denial, we see things called projection, and we see things wrongly. It's called ditthi, or wrong view, in Buddhist psychology. Anatta is a fascinating concept, and it's the spectrum of meditation, the prism of meditation, the power of mindfulness in my own humble way that's illuminated the direct experience coming to the last third of this sharing. It's the power of mindfulness that's illuminated the truth of my own interior to give me a taste of Nibbana, a taste of emptiness, a taste of anatta, a taste of the deathless. And I know you know what I mean about knowing way down deep inside of our own being, there cannot be found a central figure that's the source of the pain or the suffering or the conditioning. Emptiness here, emptiness there, an infinite universe stands infinitely before our eyes, infinitely large, it said, and infinitely small. Thoughts, as the third Zen patriarch said, are 10,000 years in time. Time, relativity. The universe inside and the universe outside without centrality. A configuration, an ecosystem, an existential environment that bleeds and oozes and behaves like a Shakespearean theater, a satanic cult horror movie, a breathtaking story of our beloved Jesus of Nazareth and his beloved lover Mary Magdalene, and every beautiful savant in the philosophical pantheon of existence that we aspire to love and feel as elements and expressions of truth. For me, the Buddha. Wow, lesson number 8, really. In pursuit of the deathless. Alan, you're going to die, but you're not going to die. You're a continuum. And if you have awareness of the color spectrum within white light, those colors of transformational awakening, the eightfold aspects of the Four Noble Truths, the fourth truth, the 8 colors of the rainbow of transformation, the 7 factors or the 7 colors of spiritual enlightenment. You go, oh my God, gradations of transformational frequencies. Therein lies where I'm taking refuge in Dhammang Saranang Gacchami. We take refuge in these color spectrums, each with their unique characteristic. I know I'm saying things to you that you already know. Please excuse me, or that you resonate with because you've studied them. I don't have a live audience. I don't know the context that I'm in. I'm only speaking to a flat screen camera. And I'm just trying to dive into this primarily for my own learning. Thank you for listening to me. Because I want to take death out of my process of dying. And Nibbana, anatta, is my core refuge. I'm going to speak about lesson 9, 10, and 11 over the next 3 days, God willing. But anatta, a bubble, a lightning bolt in the dark sky, a mirage on the desert of totality. You're looking in front of us. It looks real. It is real. And you walk into it and it's not there. The same thing with self. The same thing with death. It's, in my humble way, it's a radical, the most radical illusion reality that I've ever come to experience, because it's coming, where this body and this voice and this mind will cease in its knowledge and its proclivities. But just like that wave, is one lifetime like just one nanosecond of a wave across the ocean of infinity? The Buddha was said to have said that there are infinite lifetimes that precede this momentary wave dance that you and I called I, in the same ocean of togetherness, this paticca samuppada ocean of conditions, infinite conditions in the galaxy of totality. It's not as if it's infinite conditions like foam or froth or endless bubbles on a river, on an ocean, on a stream, in a universe. Call them what you want. Neutrinos, photons, molecules. The ultimate illusion, hoax, delusion, relative reality, not ultimate reality, relative reality, a 4 or 5 or 10 dimensional, ongoing, theatrical, horror gifted, holy performance where there is no end to the performance unless, as the Buddha said, we pull the arrow of delusion, wrong view. Wrong view. What am I seeing in my own mind that I'm not seeing rightly? Therein lies the vocation of meditation. I know you know that. The 5 aggregates. What is the human body? Physical reality. Vedana, feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Perception. The hoax of perception, because it looks like a Buddha statue, it looks like a plant, it looks like a mango, it looks like an avocado, it looks like a woman, it looks like a beach, a map, it looks like time, it looks like death, it looks like a corpse, it looks like an ocean, it looks like a rainbow. Perception. Isn't that the nature of perception? But when you've been on acid or meditation or yoga or a refined moment of poetic awareness, you go, I see, just like Sir Isaac Newton did with the prism, that what was white there as light, perception, and it radiated a sense of clarity of form, but when the spectrum or the prism of mindfulness refracted the normalcy of that atmosphere, I see something other than what I had seen before. And that insight leads to the deterioration of the delusion of wrong view. Therein lies spectrum dancing. Form, feeling, perception. Got to really be on our psychic toes not to infuse within perception all the various theatrical, producing, acting, directing dances that one does, and call that illusion bubble reality, because we're the Giorgio Bruno that goes, no, that's the church of normalcy. But if you look through that and beyond it and see even who's seeing through the beyond, there is no centrality, there is no fixed viewer, and there is no endpoint to observation. We're in a simultaneity of infinite conditions observing themselves in change. Oh my God, oh my God. A bubble on a stream, as the Buddha was said to have said. A succession of candles he used in one particular sutta. One candle lights the next candle, rebirthing through time. And how much of that last flame is identical or similar or the same as the flame that lit it? Conditions in intimate proximity that lead to the arising of the candle, the wave of life. But there is no thing that goes through it that you can call permanent. All of a sudden we stop in this dialogue and feel the nature of impermanence. Everything going through me, everything in your mind and thought, everything that's ever known in your history, everything you've ever photographed and felt and dreamt, everything that's ever been born, everything that will ever be born, everything that's ever died, every birth, every molecule of blood, every molecule of oxygen, every thought is impermanent. Where is it? Where is the cemetery of permanence? And all of a sudden we find ourselves, oh my God, I'm in the most incredibly real illusion. Welcome to samsara, welcome to God, welcome to Satan. Because within this illusion dance there is evil. And therein lies why the first noble truth for me comes back more and more strongly as this lesson number 8, the pursuit of the deathless, becomes more important, because I don't have a party tomorrow. Yes, I can go into some compartmentalization and some denial, but by and large I've been told, just like you have been told, just as you know in your own blood, it's not fatalistic to keep death intimately close to each breath, you go, oh my God, it's not that I'm going to live in the now so fully. No, I want to pursue right view. I want to live in greater clarity within this illusion and tease out of it delusion. I don't want to be born into conditions to be a Xi Jinping. I don't want to be a dictator. If those conditions are inherent in my theme stream of consciousness, I want to pursue the third noble truth. Freedom from delusion. Freedom from fixation. Freedom from grasping, attachment. Freedom from fear. Freedom from just the thought of freedom from violence. Talk about God winning the Nobel Peace Prize. Freedom from violence. The freeing process from delusion. Coming to the end here. Maybe tomorrow I'll continue with what's known as vipassana, the progress of insight. My own personal journey through meditative dimensions of, I would call it awakening with humility. Insights into nature. What I'm saying today, for those of you who know, you know, this is not phantasmagorical intellectual froth. These are so simple, so available to the yogi. All it takes is the inspiration to call off the normalcy of ordinary and drop into the sensitivity of refining the spectrum. We all have consciousness. We all have prisms. But some of us have to dust them off and polish them a bit. And all of a sudden we have to put them at the right angle to the light. And all of a sudden, where there had been the illusion of the room, imagine if the room was luminous right now with that which created an unthinkable spiritual epiphany. Isn't that enlightenment? Is the process of actualizing and realizing epiphany? Imagine those boys and girls in the room with Sir Isaac Newton on acid, and all of a sudden they're all hanging, smoking their cigars, twiddling their thumbs, anticipating going home and having a glass of wine or beer or cognac, going back to their scientific labs, whatever, and all of a sudden it says, hey guys, has it come on yet? Yeah, something strange. What'd you put in the teasers? And all of a sudden the curtain goes up, and he goes, oh my God, anatta. Imagine you being on your back, being shot by the arrow of wrong view, and you say, take the damn arrow out, and you go, God, I'm back alive. What happened? You shot yourself through your own stupidity. Welcome to rebirth, thinking that you're the wave crossing the ocean. You got to drop down deep into the soul and feel the rock and roll of reality, right? Not the fiction of your own ongoing waveness projection. Selfdom is the opposite of anatta. And I know these are just words, but you can experience them. That's the beauty of vipassana meditation. It puts you in the environment of you not escaping you into the formations of projection. And all of a sudden you're going like, I have a telescope to look at my own mind in the context of life. You do. And you look through it and you go, oh my God, I can't find a central figure. I can't find an outer boundary. And you go, epiphany. When you hit the stage of Uddiyabhaya Jnana, the stage of arising and passing away in classical insight meditation, you are blown out of your delusion temporarily. You go like, wow, the best kept secret of all, that I am. And really what this points to is the mantra of today is, this I am not. I am not my anger. This I am not my greed. This I am not my car. This I am not my phone. This I am not my body. This I am not my aneurysm. This I am not my cancer. This I am not disease. This I am not suffering. And you go, oh my God, this is not self. It can't be controlled except through the insight of release. The deathless in process. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Yes, we're in the ultimate existential theater of the fucking absurd. And it has moments of glory. We all know it has very small moments of glory, getting worse by the month. We'll get through it, of course, but it doesn't take us out of samsara. It doesn't take us out of the ocean. It doesn't take us out of delusion. This is where the Dhamma comes in. And so this progressive insight, of course, the challenge, let me move to the end here. The challenge for me is insight into emptiness and anatta with the dance of originality, novelty, call it anatta and artistry. Being somebody with style, finesse, cool, credit cards, podcasts, desires, fears, and knowing that the context is just a stage set of a bad movie that's gotten rancid. Disease is rancid. You can beautify it, but you still got to deal with the crippling anguish that I don't want opioids all through my brain at this point. I don't want it. I don't like pharmaceutical drugs. No. So this sense of artistry with the reality of emptiness. How do I get up in the day and go like, wow, man, I'm somebody but nobody? How can you be real and ultimately non-real at the same time? What is self and non-self? And that dance, that's obviously the subject of philosophy and psychology. To some extent, art and religion mixed, but uniqueness. I can't emphasize enough how when you get involved in yoga and dharma and spirituality, that it brings out, just like this pandemic has brought out the latent authoritarianism in idiots, or not so latent. Prophet, it's just like, I'm somebody now. Roll up your goddamn sleeve. Everyone should take it, even the animals. Honey, you haven't had your booster today. It's not going to become like these inoculations are going to become like tea and coffee now, like there's going to be a Starbucks for vaccinations, perpetuity. Come get your vaccine. It's like authoritarian. No. Dhamma, meditation, spectrum, prismine, psychedelics, psychotherapy at its best, but primarily meditation illuminates the necessity, the imperative of you being somebody, navigating the process of nobody. You being somebody, being responsible for the navigational decisions of intelligent behavior, because your lack of intelligence, Mr. President, has consequences. You impact other through your stupidity, Mr. Fauci. So we don't lose the comedic, satirical theatrics, if you will, of this samsara. But at the same time, there's an ultimate dance here. And yeah, it's all, Mr. Wellwood brought up the issue of bypassing. I'm not going to get too down on that concept right now. It's another topic altogether. And there's the other Buddhists over here who are tyrannized without knowing it by emptiness. I am not anybody. I'm empty of self. Didn't you know that the ultimate truth was nobody? I count my loot 10 times a day, but there's no one counting it. I do drugs now and again, but no one's doing drugs. And I constantly see sex workers, but that's, I take the concept out of worker, and she's just who she is, just like me, empty of self. And it's the tyranny of the illusion or the lack of insight. It's sort of like I've seen so many of these Buddhist teachers, it's like premature ejaculation. It's like they're so taken out. Look at this girl who's gonna make love with me. It's like, I'm so lucky. You lost what you had to make it exciting. The premature ejaculation of emptiness and anatta is a common pitfall of semi-enlightened male Western teachers. I know it. I've been there. But then there's the other side, which is the crazy dance of satirizing the whole story through mockery and through gallows humor and through wicked comedy and get down in your face cinematic, transformational, existential theater. I'm trying to write the show of my life before I croak. And I'm going to end here because I could just go on and on and on because I'm dying. And I just can't say it enough. The poignancy of the process. We cry over loss. They're all so human, you know, emptiness is there. But God damn it, I wish it wasn't happening to me. These dualities are so vivid, so razor sharp. One little step this way and you get blasted out of the blue. Destiny brings her right to your heart and you go, I've been waiting my whole life to meet you. You know, it's the ultimate Shakespeare plus ayahuasca with high degree of DMT and MEO and a psychedelic yet to even be discovered, which is kind of the symbolism of Sir Isaac Newton's prism, the next dimensions of the prism, the color spectrum of emptiness. The Buddha was said to have said, just as the ocean has but one taste, that of salt, so too does the Dhamma have but one taste, that of freedom. The deathless, the Nibbana, the taste of the progressive insight, the prisming of the insight into the absence of grasping, attachment, even to self who's getting old, self who's hurting, self who's dying. The illusion of that and the poignancy of that with grace. So from my heart to yours, thank you for tuning in. Today is the 8th lesson in this process, the pursuit of the deathless. And 1, bring God into the room. 2, grace under pressure. 3, the quality of consciousness is everything. Liberate your freedom. Don't let fear take hold. Number 4, 5, only you. Only you. Reasoning power, relativity and trust. And 6, art is life. Life is art. Embrace the mad woman in you. 7, I believe in love. I believe in love. I believe in miracles. And it doesn't need to forgive you. And the pursuit of the deathless. No one dies. Only this continuum of the 5 aggregates without centrality. So from my heart to yours, thank you for being in my life. Thank you for your good heart, your courage. Needless to say, none of us could do this without each other. So from my heart to yours, God willing, see you tomorrow for the next installment of Deadman Walking, Freedom Never Dies, 11 life lessons in facing the illusion of death. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.